this is Jokina with Modern Homemakers, and today I'm going to show you how to make this onesie. So it's a free pattern. You can go in the description, go back to modernhomemakers.com and print it off. It has snaps. I have two options. You can use snap pliers or sewable. Oh, we got not much of a neck here, but you can see it's the over the head where it opens up, very easy to get over my large head babies. So this opens up for very easy over the head. Oh, big yawn. So keep watching. I've got like step-by-step instructions coming up. Can you say bye-bye? Can you say bye-bye? Oh, this is the newborn size, and we're 1 week old, and we're 8 pounds. We lost our half a pound, or 5 ounces rather, with our birth weight loss. But anyway, my babies are pretty big, so we don't stay in newborn for long. There's just, you can see, there's not much space left, so we only stay in these a couple weeks, but oh boy, do we look nice in them for those couple weeks. There's a lot on this table, but this is everything you're gonna need. So first off, you need to go print off the free pattern from Modern Homemakers. I'll put a link in the description. You need half a yard of stretchy knit fabric. I have links for everything that I used. I'll throw in the description as well. A coordinating thread, pins, fabric scissors. This is a choice. You either need 7/16 snaps and a snap press, or you can use sew-on snaps. Once again, they need to be smaller so that they fit in the seam line. You also need an iron. Boy, did I try to design this pattern without it. I made 2 drafts. They just didn't look polished, so I had to suck it up and use the iron. So you need iron and ironing board, and you need a sewing machine, but it does not have to be this one, although this one I have managed to not kill for multiple years, and I am deaf on sewing machines, so throw a link for that too. To make your baby newborn onesie, you need to go print off this free pattern from Modern Homemakers. I'm gonna start with page 1 here. And as you're cutting out your pattern pieces, always keep the black line intact. So I'm cutting to the right side of the black line. And I won't make you tediously watch me do all of that, but I'll come back in a minute and show you how to tape everything together for the bigger pattern pieces. I've got everything cut out, so now we're gonna tape pieces together. We're gonna start with pattern piece A, and that's on page 1. Page 2 is where pattern piece B is. Oh my goodness, I've been working on letters with my 2-year-old. You think I would know my own. I'm just putting a couple pieces of tape on there. And I'll set that to the side. Also on page 1, you have pattern piece F. It's gonna connect to G, which was on page 4. So I've got little arrows telling you G goes to F and F goes to G. You don't have to do anything with H. All right, C is gonna go with D. Awesome. I and J, don't have to do anything with them. They're all done. You have to make a decision with your sleeve. If you want to do short sleeves, you're going to cut here on this line. If you want to do long sleeves, you're going to cut here. I am going to have a spring baby coming up here, so I am going to do the short sleeve. Boop. So that's where I'm cutting. So once again, you see the black line all the way around everything. I was so excited to find this fabric online because it comes in half yards. That way I can have more variety. So it's 7 different prints. They're all half a yard and they are all super stretchy. More of a 2-way. It says 4, it's more stretchy this way, but it still has a stretch that way. I'm going to pick which one I want to do for this onesie real quick. Let's see here. I like them all, but I'm gonna call this one the newborn onesie, and I will save all of the other ones for other projects. I'm gonna go wash this on warm and dry it. I try to always wash new fabric and new clothes for that matter by themselves. And regardless of the fabric care instructions, I know that in my house, it's gonna wind up on warm in a mass of other things. So I'd rather get any bleeding out of the way up front. So I'm gonna wash and dry this, and then we'll cut out our fabric pieces. Now it's time to cut stuff out. I'll focus over here first. One side where I have just folded it over just enough to fit piece A on here. There's a really large selvage in this fabric, but whatever. Just lining it up with the side here, put some pins in it. Exciting stuff. You don't need to watch me put pins and things. Now come over here to the other side of the fabric. So all this is to use the least amount of fabric possible, because I could probably cut a whole nother different size onesie out of this in the future. We'll see. The biggest piece is the top front piece. I have folded this whole section over wider than you saw on the right because the leg binding needs a pretty big piece on fold. That is what determined how far I folded this over, was this piece F. I'm going to have to take my top front, which is C, and turn it this way. It'll still work just fine because it's on a fold. So line up with the side and then put your pins in that one. Most of these are self-explanatory, but I wanted to point out I and F both have to be on the fold, and they're both a cut one on fold. We need 2 of the arm, but J and H, we only need 1. Even though I have them laid out here, I have options. I could remove these and just cut them out of the scraps, and that way it's not going through 2 layers like this section down here. I am probably just gonna cut through the 2 layers. I just wanted to point out, I can't remember if I said anything about this, but on the one that I told you to turn upside down, there is a notch, and I like to get into the habit. I cut out the paper with the notch. I haven't always done that like with store-bought patterns, but it's really important for this step. If you turn that upside down, you won't know where to overlap the shoulder pieces for the neck. Make sure you either do this right side up or do what I do where I cut a paper notch so you can see. That's a really important. I'm a minimalist notcher in my patterns, so trust me, you need that. I did decide to be frugal, and here's the difference this makes. So if I had just cut that through, that would all be cut into on both layers, but this will be a big old piece now that's not touched at all, and I will just cut it out of this scrap here. And that's still a pretty big scrap over there. Maybe I'll make some mittens to match. We'll see. Like I said, I tried to help you not have to use an iron in this pattern, but I failed. So sorry, I couldn't think of a better way. We have 3 pieces that we're gonna be making binding with. So we have H, we have F, and we have I. So make sure you've got all of those. Come over to your ironing board, and the pretty side I'm gonna put down. And then don't burn yourself. This is a very delicate situation. I'm gonna fold in from both sides, and I wanna leave a little bit of a gap in the middle. I'm not measuring anything, just you can see there's a little bit of a gap in the middle. And it's kind of hard to get started. Once again, don't burn yourself, please. I'm just gonna kind of set the iron on there for a little bit. Don't melt your fabric. Ooh, this one's, I've made like 4 of this onesie, but this one wants to be really crisp, looks like. So I'm gonna up my iron temperature a little bit. And you'll just continue to work your way up, leaving that little bit of a gap and folding the other sides in as we go. And this really does not want to stay down. I have made multiple onesies with old t-shirts. Those were great. They were like the almost free onesies, just a little bit of thread and snaps. It's like, what is the word? So just leaving this on here. Gonna continue to work our way down. And this is not wanting to get very crisp. This is a very stretchy, and it's almost like a pleating effect. If you look, it kind of has some bubbles in there, so other fabrics were easier to iron. I'm sorry, this is the one you get to witness. So it is still staying in. It's just not as crisp as the other ones I have done. but I don't want to take a million years, so I'm going to continue working my way down here. Just let that be enough. You can see there's a crease line. Other fabrics, this would be more, but yeah. Okay, so then I'm going to fold this in half again. So at this point, we've got folded in here, and then I'm gonna fold one more time. And this is just making that binding that we're gonna sew over the necks and legs and all that fun stuff. Once again, we don't wanna burn ourselves, so I'm just gonna slowly work the way up. So once again, this would normally stay together better, but that's okay. I'm gonna sew it down and then it's never gonna move again. These all kind of look the same when you're done. I am pinning them back to the pattern piece, so I know that this is front neck binding H. And I'm just gonna put a pin in it, move on. So you're gonna do the same thing with all of them. They're all different lengths. The leg binding's the most fun. That's a sarcastic most fun. Anyway, do the same thing with all of them. We're gonna take the top back piece, now that we've got everything cut out, and the back neck binding. Fabric is not staying closed as much as other ones, but it still has the creases, so it's all good. And we're gonna open this up. Actually, before we open it up, let me take advantage of that moment there. Going to put a pin in the very center here, and I'm actually going to put it from the bottom, like going like that, and then I'm going to open it up. And that is going to allow me to line up with the center of the binding. So same thing, I'm folding that in half, and I'm going to put my pin in from the bottom where the fold is, and that way when I open this up, I'm going to match up the two pins, and that is the center. So sliding that on top, right up to the middle where the fold is, then I'm going to fold that down. So you can see through both sides, that's like lined up. And then I'm going to put another pin in there, going through all of those layers, kind of at an angle, because that's what I did. Now, we're working our way around this collar. So lining up in the center, folding, pin, same thing, lining up in the center, folding over, that's what it looks like on the corner. So it's a little bit past it, but that's awesome. Makes it easier to sew. Got that. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. So open it up. Got it all pinned, and now we're gonna top stitch. The easiest thing is just to do a zigzag, but you could do a decorative stitch if you want. Make sure you've got your coordinating thread all set up. So to do this, I'm gonna come back a little farther so it doesn't get caught under the presser foot. And I am going to, in the center of the presser foot, I have some holes here. So I would just tell you you're lining up with the right side of the presser foot for this, but I really want to focus on over here on the left. So I'm going to line up with the left side where the hole is of the presser foot. So you see the left side hole here. And I'm not perfect, it might bounce a little to the right, but I'm trying to shoot for that left side here and not going past the split in the middle. Keep an eye as it starts to drift a little. way to the end. Now, so you can see what that looks like in the front, and you flip it over, and if you're lucky, yes, I made it through all the layers. If not, have fun with your seam ripper. I missed a little bit at the beginning. I'm gonna go ahead and come down here and just because I don't want that to annoy me. And I'm gonna line up with the right side of the hole of the presser foot. Perfect. All right, so cut your threads and we're moving on to the next piece of binding. I'm gonna open the top front. Make sure you did the notch or you won't know where to put the neckline. So while it's still folded though, I just keep wanting to get ahead of this. And we're gonna put a pin in the center. Same thing, going from the bottom, going up. So there's that pin. Oh, I just took some plants inside and I'm covered in dirt. I'm gonna go with it because, yeah. Take the front neck binding, which is piece H, and fold it in half. And put the pin in from the bottom where the folds are. Opening that up, and I'll line up the two middle pins. Pushing it up to the center where it folds over. I'm gonna pull this pin down a little. Then I'm gonna fold it over. Add a new pin. Both of these pins are now obsolete. And then I'm just gonna work my way around, lining up in the center, just following the curve of the neckline. Go through all the layers, and then we're gonna make that final turn. And the other side. Looks like I wasn't quite even with my center somehow. Whatever, I'm just gonna pull on the neckline a little because it's stretchy and make that work. There we go. And the beauty of knit fabrics, you know, I didn't get it lined up perfectly. Well, that doesn't matter because I made it work. Same thing as with the back. We're going to line up. So I'm trying to pull this back a little just so it doesn't get caught in the machine, which means, you know, I would have to do a little bit at the end again. But this pin, I'm gonna move it. So I'm lining up with the left side hole of the presser foot. Look at that zigzag. So it's kind of lined up on the right side too, but that's not where my eyes are focusing. Second, I'm starting to get off. Okay, so here at the very beginning, I didn't quite get it all. So I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna come up and line up with the right hole of the presser foot for the zigzag. So the edge of the binding is lined up with that right hole. And that's just easier than getting it caught in the machine, but you don't have to. I mean, you might be better at that than me. We're moving on to the arms. And to start with, we're gonna take both of these and we're gonna, not the curved side, but the straight side, we're gonna do a zigzag all across the bottom. Just line up with the hole on the right side of the presser foot, or go off a little. I drifted. And then same thing with the other one. I've already done it on one here, but you're gonna take the pattern piece and you're going to fold up the bottom of the sleeve. And I just lay the pattern piece right on top of there, and I make sure that that's kind of lined up. I do a little bit less typically because the zigzag often, I've done this with a lot of different fabrics, but it'll shrink it down a little. And then I'm gonna put a pin in on the top, and I'll put in a couple more pins, but now I'm gonna go line up on this side. So, great. See how it's like where the dotted line is? That's how much we want the hem to go up. And then I'll put one in the middle. You could use a decorative top stitch, but I'm just keeping it simple and I'm doing zigzags again. Zigzags are great for stretch knits. I am going to line up with the right side of the presser foot. A little bit over, but you know. Just be consistent all the way down and make sure it gets both sides all the way through. So you can see all the way down, and it captured both pieces, so that's gonna be stuck down, and I'll do the same thing on the other sleeve piece. We're gonna take both of these sleeves that we just did, and we're gonna fold them in half where the hem's at the bottom, and put a pin through the middle. Do the same thing with the other sleeve. Then I'm gonna push them to the side. And now we need, you can tell by looking at your pattern, but the front of your onesie has like the more blunt rectangle shape, and the back of the onesie is the curved, like semicircle shape. So I'm gonna put the back in the back, set the front on top, and kind of line up the side there for a second. And here is why I gave you that notch. So you see the notch right here. We're gonna take the back neck, and I'm turning the front neck over, and we're gonna take it all the way up to where this notch is. And I kinda, I'll turn it this way now. So this is where the notch is, and I am trying to match up the sides. And I like to have the notch kind of go off a little bit so I can just trim it off. So, see if I can get this angled just right. The notch is here, and the hem, or the binding from the back neck is actually going off of the project. I'll turn it over. Can you see how that comes out past the notch? And then I'm gonna keep it lined up and pin it one more time over here. And then we're gonna go repeat that on the other side. The back piece is coming over the front piece. And here's where the notch is, and I'm going to go over, like off the notch. Kind of like I'm lining up with the notch almost. And that comes a little bit over. And that the notch and the extra piece of the binding will both get trimmed off after we sew them, and you'll never see them again, but they really helped us know where to match up. This is how it looks at this point. So you can see this is the neckline that allows, if you have large-headed children like mine, these are great. You can get it on there without undoing buttons and stuff. But that is not it. We're not ready to sew that quite yet. I'm going to meet up on the side here. You can see where the arm curve comes over. And then I'm going to fold in half so I can see where the center of my arm sleeve connection point is going to be. So I put a pin in the center there. Same thing here. Gonna line up that side piece. and food. And put a pen in that center. Then I'll take that center pinned sleeve piece I have, and I'll come over to the side here so you can see. I really should have cut these threads. They're kind of being annoying. So this is like loosely setting the sleeve there where it would go, and it would line up with this pin. So the pin there. But I'm gonna flip it so the pins are still lined up, and then it's easier if I turn it to put the pins in. So this is the point. It's tricky because we have the two overlapping pieces and then the sleeve piece on top of it. So I'm going to put a pin right there in that center, get rid of the other pins. There's a lot of bulk going on. Now I have this pin below that I can't move quite yet because I gotta make sure that the sleeve goes around. But I'm actually first gonna bring the end of the sleeve down to that line that we matched up with. So you know that's where the side seam starts or whatever. And I'm gonna put a pin in there. And then you may have to stretch a little bit because this is bulky, but we're going to line up all through these layers. And put a couple pins in. And then the tricky part is, so you don't break your machine, we gotta open this up and try to get that sideways pin. See that green pin? I got that out of the way. So when you're sewing, remember afterwards, we're going to cut off the extra bit of neck binding and the notch. So you will be sewing to this curve, not to those two pieces that are sticking out. On the other side, we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take the end of the sleeve and match it with the point at the bottom of the armpit. And then you might have to stretch a little, but we're gonna put a couple pins, just following that curve, and remove that extra pin that was going in there sideways. So yeah, and then I'm gonna do a little autocorrect. I know that this is gonna be a problem. I didn't angle this perfectly. If this seam is up here, I will still see it after I sew. So I'm pulling that down a little bit manually so that it's sticking out too. So both of those are now sticking out because that's all gonna get trimmed away. All right, so same thing on the other side. Got the centered sleeve pin, the center of the shoulder. I'm gonna flip this up. So those two center points are meeting. I'm gonna turn it because it's easier to work on that way. So I'm gonna put a pin in the center through all of those layers, and then take out those pins, and then meet up at the armpit. And then you might have to stretch it a little. That. So looking down here, that's not quite angled over. I might see that. So I'm gonna remove that pin and turn it just a little bit. So by turning that just a little bit, that ensures that I can clip that off and that will run, you won't see it. And then the same thing over here, meet up at the armpit. And a couple pins in between. So you can see all of this stuff that's hanging out, and that's all good because it's all gonna get trimmed and it will look good. Switch to a straight stitch. Don't worry, there will be zigzagging afterwards. And we're gonna line up with the right side of the presser foot. And this, you see how this wants to turn and whatever, just really make sure you've got those points lined up on the corner so it all looks crisp and nice. going to start a little bit of a stitch, and then I'm going to hit my reverse and back it up so I don't have to come back over that one. And you really want to make sure you're not like sewing through half of your neck or something. Just keep the fabric pushed in the right direction. And try not to sew over any of those pins. Hopefully you removed the extra pins that were initially in the shoulder piece, because that's a good way to snap a needle. And then I'm just gonna lift it and turn it. At this point, you can trim any of those notches or pieces of the neck binding that go past the curve of the sleeve. So just give those a quick snip. And make sure you've gotten through all the layers. And we are going to go in and zigzag along the edge. Quite a few layers at some point between the binding. That's like a 4 times rolled fabric. And just take your time and work it through. So that's what it looks like on the inside. And here's the money shot. Look how nice that looks from the outside. So if I had not pushed those little fabric pieces over, you would see it like there'd be a gap. And yeah, so do the exact same thing on this side. I'm gonna do the straight stitch, trim it down, and then do a zigzag. I've turned the onesie inside out and I've already pinned one side, but what we're gonna do is, you can see at the bottom here, there's a point there, and then there's a point here, and we're gonna match those up and put a pin. And then we're going up to the point where the sleeve hits the armpit. I'm gonna line up those pieces and put a pin in the side. And then just kind of stretching that so that that works. I'll put a couple more pins there. So that's what that looks like. And then we're gonna do a straight stitch and then a zigzag along that side. So I'm gonna start, even though there's really no space here, I'm going to go in from the side and go in like that 1/4 of an inch, and then I will turn and go down the side. So a little tricky because this thing is so stinking tiny. So lining up the end of that hem there with the hole. I gotta get this pin out of the way or I'm gonna break my needle. So we're not going far here. Go real slow. That's like a 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm turning the whole thing to where the right side lines up with the hole in the presser foot. So that 1/4 inch. Flip it. Make sure you don't sew through extra layers there. I'm switching to zigzag. Just going right along the edge so it kind of seams it. And then right here is where we turn and go to the edge. Fabulous. We'll do the same thing on the other side. This thing is so tiny that in order for the arm to really kind of hang right, we're gonna go in, and this is where I went left and down, and I'm gonna do a very short cut. So don't go all the way to it, but just cutting that is going to allow that bulk of the sleeve, turn it inside, right side out there, to go down in a way that it would not otherwise. So with a cute little sleeve. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll be working on some leg binding. This is the back, and I have folded it in half and put a pin. Actually, I'm zoning here. I wanna put the pin this way, it's easier. There you go. Pin going that way in the back. And then I've taken the leg binding and I folded it in half and I put a pin in it as well. So now I'm gonna match those up. See the pins lining up with the pin. And I'm gonna bring the onesie right up to the middle where the crease is, and then we're gonna fold that over. Got all the layers up in there. And then a pin, then I'll take that one out. So I'm gonna go all the way around. So you gotta follow the curve of the onesie piece. Like if you don't continue to line that up with the center, you'll have a weirdly shaped onesie. This is the side where we stitched them together, so line that up. Be careful when you're pinning that it goes through all the layers. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the end first. Make sure that's lined up. And then I'll get one more on this curve. So I'm gonna do the same thing along the other half here, but I'm not gonna make you watch that. We've got everything pinned here. I'm gonna start on, this is like the front leg area. And I guess I'll pan over here for a second. You can see the contrasting thread. So we're just gonna zigzag, not here. We're zigzagging all the way around the legs is the first thing. So starting up here, I'm gonna line up between the hole here in the foot and on the left there. So it's the hole on the left side of the presser foot, not the right side. And you can see that's enough over to keep the front and the back totally sealed in there. And I'm just doing a zigzag. You could do a more decorative stitch if you wanted. I feel like the zigzag works really well with all the stretchy stuff. It's starting to creep under, so I'm going to lift the foot for a second. Starting to do it again. So we've got, that's what it looks like from the top. And on the inside, you want to make sure you didn't miss any of the getting through all the layers, but that is done. We're nearing the end here, so this is piece J, or front crotch as I have classily labeled it. Okay, so I'm putting right sides of the fabric together, and I'm just gonna turn it because it's easier for me. So you are, see it's not quite long enough to stretch past the binding because I don't want that overlapping. And I'm gonna put a couple pins in. And then we are going to straight stitch. So line it up with the inside hole of the presser foot. Oops, started to roll it under. Looking good. So if you look here, oh, I did not do the straightest job. Let's not judge that. We're gonna fold this to where the whole thing is going over. So this is flat, and this is going over. I can put one more in the middle for good measure. And now we're gonna go from the top and do a zigzag. So the zigzag needs to go through all of this stuff down here. So I'm like a 1/4 inch over the side of the presser foot here. Look at the back here, and I missed it a little here, so I'm gonna go ahead and go right over that spot again where I didn't get through all the layers. Yeah, you can see it looks a little higher here. I got off. You could seam rip that, so you don't have to see it, but I'm feeling too lazy for that. There are gonna be snaps on top of it. It's snap time. We're gonna take the spiky looking snap. Looks like a very painful crown. And I don't have much nails because I cut those off. There we go. So you push that in, and then I'm taking the part that looks like an Atari joystick. So it's got the little button, and that is going to go push down into the orange, and you'll hear that snap. So I want the Atari joystick part to come out the top. So I'm putting the spiky yellow part on the bottom center of the onesie. You could mark this, I'm just eyeballing it. So that is approximately center. And I'm lining it up between the end and where the zigzag is. And then press like you've never pressed before. Okay. A nice attach point and pulling it out. So we'll do 2 more, 1 on each side. I got one done here. I keep dropping things. Winnie is a fabulous camera woman. She goes under the desk and wherever these fly. So spiky side on yellow. And then these are a little tricky. They don't have the cool Atari joystick look to them. One side, the center slightly goes up, and one side it slightly goes down. So the side that slightly goes up is going facing in on the orange. The side that goes in is touching the orange. And then I'm gonna have orange up. So once again, you could mark this with fabric tape or whatever. That's approximately where I'm gonna go. Boom. Boom. I got one more to do. Da, 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 da. Now I told you from the beginning that if you didn't want to do snap pliers, I was going to have another option for you. So, boom, that's where we're going to use this one. And these are sew-on snaps. So you just need to get a coordinating thread color. My camera woman wanted to make a quick cameo. And oh, no, get her off my desk. She's not welcome. She tries to eat my straight pins. It's terrible. No. Get a coordinating, or in my case, contrasting complementary thread, because that's what I sewed everything in. I did white because I didn't have a thread this color. Shh, no one knows. Okay, I already did one because I was waiting on my camera woman. The sew-on snaps. You could mark this once again, but I'm just going to say that's the center. So take the snap from the bottom. Boop. And I'm going to put that right there in the center. I'm going to come from the back. Oops, I moved it. So you see I've come from the back, and then I'm going to go in through one of the holes. Now, the snap press is way faster. No one's saying it isn't, but it's also more expensive. So I totally get if you are not ready to commit to that and you just want to do these. This is a totally legit option. So we're going to do 3 or 4 stitches in each hole. 4 is sturdier, but I'm going to go with 3, I think, because it's painful to watch otherwise, so I recommend the 4. So going through, and I always like to go on the outside when I'm pushing through because it gets tighter and tighter the more rounds you have done, and it's easier to push through than to try to come from the back. It's very hard to sew when you're trying to keep everything flat so it can be visible for the camera. That's my little soapbox moment. Oh, I accidentally went through. Oh no, I didn't do my own thing. It is smart to do the step that I skipped, which is about 2 holes in, to go ahead and put a knot in the back just in case something breaks, that you wouldn't lose everything. But I totally forgot to do that. Okay, and then I'm gonna make a knot on the back where you don't see it. Followed by another knot of paranoia, because I just feel better if I do 2. That is what that looks like. I gotta get some more thread, and then we're gonna do the other piece in the back. Now we're gonna take the bigger piece off the top, and we're gonna flip it to where what was on the top is actually going to be touching the fabric and sewn to it. So I'm going to take a moment and make sure that is lined up and where I want it to be. And then I'm going to slide the needle into the binding. And it's that same process, going in through the back. Moving on to the next hole. So you will see this from the other side. So the coordinating fabric or thread is probably smarter. And this time I'm going to remember to do a halfway knot. Actually, I don't want to see that. This is the outside. I'm going to do my halfway knot right here on the inner side. So I'm just going to make a quick knot. And that way, if part of the snap breaks, maybe I'll have time to find it before it completely falls off. Okay, and then we're going to do a tie off. That's it. One knot followed by my paranoid second. I'm not going to show anymore. I did one set already, so the third set would go right here and here, but I show the ones that I have done. Boom, boom. Okay, so you would do one more right next to it over here, and then it will look like this, but with little bitty hand snaps. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give this video a like if you liked it. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and let me know in the comments, did you make one? How did it turn out for you? I'm just interested. Can you say bye-byes? If you haven't already, please like this video. Share it with your friends. I just think these make great presents, and if you have your own little ones coming, that is great too. Yeah. And please hit that subscribe button so you can see more stuff like this. Can you say bye-byes? Okay. Well, we gotta go eat again. That's all we do. Do we eat? That's where we get these fun thigh rolls from. Oh yeah, those are the best. Yay! Yay! Oh, and if you haven't already checked it out, I have a video on a newborn sleeper. And coming up next, you'll see newborn pants. So that's a great pairing with this sleeper. All right, that's it for now.